Launchpad. And now, here's Johnny.
Hey, it's Johnny Rocket here at the Johnny Rocket Launchpad. Always launching ideas in your direction in Northwest only. Rock and roll, Libertarian radio show. I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Kurt Nelson. Bam! My voice of reason, the beautiful, sexy, talented, badass motherfucking bitch, my girl, Heather Nixon.
Did you just call me a bitch?
Yeah.
Oh, come on, man.
That was a compliment.
That was
I
a
know,
compliment.
I know. I was just being stereotypical, that one thing. Thank you. Hello.
You're welcome. And then we got Heather Nixon here. So always check us out at JohnnyRocketLaunchpad.com, the hub for all of our old episodes, our blogs, all that cool shit we got coming at you. And also check us out at Facebook.com/JRLaunchpad. And we're here in the studio, and via phone, we're talking to gubernatorial candidate Barry J. Hess. Woo! And he ran for...
former Libertarian vice chair or something.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there you go.
And
Yeah.
he's the former Libertarian vice chair. Fantastic.
It's kind of funny. But we were talking a little bit about HB 2305 to answer Heather's questions of how effective we have been here in Arizona as a libertarian, the freedom movement.
Okay.
And 2305 gave us the perfect opportunity because I know when I saw it, I called up because I know all the legislators, and I think he was more concerned that I somehow got his cell phone number. When I called him up, apparently I caught him at dinner or something, and I said, Eddie, what are you thinking here with this nonsense? And we talked a little bit about the bill, and he said, well, you libertarians, you guys have cost us the vote, and you put Kirsten Sinema in, and you're getting rid of Russell Pierce, and all this, and Kirkpatrick was another issue where they said libertarians had spoiled the races, so they wanted us out. And during the time when it was on the floor, when they voted it, check this deal out. It was on the night before of a special session, late at night, like 11 o'clock, and they voted on it. It was denied.
Oh, man.
It was turned down. So, and that was what they call the final read. Lo and behold, for about another 2 hours, a little bit of butt kissing and toe stomping went on at the legislature.
Yeah.
And they got this thing. It's kind of a unicorn in politics. It's called a reconsideration vote.
Okay.
Now, it had lost because it was late at night and it was in the middle of a time when none of the legislators were around, or it had been defeated 16-13.
Right.
Well, then they got this reconsideration vote and it passed.
Wow.
16-13. Now, during this time, there's a microphone on the floor of the House in the well, and J.D. Mesnard, one of the legislators here, dumbass, he went and spoke out loud and said, we need your vote because we've got to get those libertarians off the ballot. They're spoiling our races.
Right.
So it was very clear what this bill was all about. Well, along with it, they made the huge, and it went through, and then I called Eddie, and he was saying, did you just call to piss me off? And I go, nah, if I did that, you'd already hung up.
Right.
I'm really good at it. But no, I wanted to hear you defend the indefensible. What is this cowardice that goes on? And I said, the best thing you could hope for, Eddie, is that the governor, sobers up for a minute, and she refuses to sign it. It was still Jan Brewer. And of course, she apparently didn't sober up because it went through. And then I had told Eddie, I said, if it goes through, we're going to send it to the ballot. And he literally chuckled. And he had every right to, because we have in Arizona a citizens referendum. If there's a bad law, you can get, I think 187,000 signatures that you need. And I mean, it's almost in a 3-month period of time. It's almost insurmountable without a big organization. And so he chuckled because in the last 35 years, there's been over 30 attempts to run citizens initiatives, and not even one had ever made it.
Wow.
Didn't even get close. Well, in this one, after I had opened my big mouth, I thought, well, you know what? Let's step up. Let's see what we can do with this deal. Well, it happens, some of the other amendments happen to offend other factions and other groups, one of which was the Democrats.
Okay.
And because the Democrats wanted to be able to go pick up bedridden Aunt Sally's ballot and take it and maybe a few of the neighbors over to the polling place. They don't like they don't like not being able to do that, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
And I understood that, so I called them up and said, hey, you know what? You guys are getting screwed here too. And they got all fired up, but they knew their issue would not fly.
Right.
But ours, denying the voters another choice,
Right.
that they knew that was going to be the winner. And so I became the leader of a coalition that included the Democrats and the Greens,
Right.
and about 3/4 of the Republican Party. And I mean, it was
Absolutely.
everybody but. It was the largest, most diverse coalition in Arizona history. And it was and during the time as we're going, of course, everybody poo-pooed it. There's 26,000 libertarians registered in this state. What are they going to do?
Right.
And so it was they just didn't think we were going anywhere. Well, once they realized this coalition had been coming together, because I was calling everybody, I was pulling in political favors left and right, and you wouldn't believe the table. I got pictures of all the people we brought together of these desperate groups who hate each other on everything else. But by God, we're going to get us some equal choice at the ballot box.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And so it was very cool. And as we went along, they started getting a little nervous because now the Democrats were bringing in money at like $500,000, and plus other assorted things, and a lot of the labor network for collecting the signatures. Well, as we started going on, it was getting serious, and I kept sandbagging the press every day. They'd ask me how close. I already knew we had already been over the number, the 87,000. We had people who were sitting there night and day verifying every single signature. We didn't turn in any of the bad ones.
Wow.
That's their game, is to try to challenge your signatures and get you thrown off the ballot.
Absolutely.
That way. And so we didn't. I urged the group. I said, "Look, man, we're making history. So let's make big history. Let's keep going, and let's keep going strong." And our last day that we had to turn them in happened to be September 12th of 2013. So that was something that we had to consider. Well, September 12th, as my grapevine came back to me, I got to tell you this part. In between there, getting to that point, a very courageous kind of Tea Party gal, and God bless her, she's got principle, but she was also the vice chair of the Mojave County Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
And she asked me to speak up north in the mountains, big 400 or 500 people out in the beautiful mountains and
Sure.
park setting, and it's a really wonderful event. And everybody comes up there, all the candidates, comes up to address this crowd and say things. Well, I was the only non-Republican.
Wow.
And when I got out of the car, the little biddies were already running over to the gal who had invited me and telling her she could not let me speak. And it was, they didn't want Barry to speak. No. And so I asked if I went over to her and I said, "Man, you got some spine, lady. I appreciate that. But could you let me go last? I think that would be the way to wrap this thing up." And she agreed. And by golly, I didn't hold back. Never had I had such a wonderful experience of a crowd, literally, and all I was lambasting them for a lack of moral principles and leadership.
I do that to Heather sometimes.
Pardon?
I do that to Heather sometimes.
What?
Lambaste her.
Well, it was so exciting because half of the crowd was literally cheering me, like a semi-ovation kind of thing. All these
That's
big
awesome, man.
benches lined up. The other half was literally jeering me. I was digging it, man. I'll tell you, I mean, that's what turns a libertarian on. I got people thinking.
Right, that's what it's about, man.
And then I went up to the chairman, who happens to be a friend, the chairman of the Republican Party, and to make things worse, I asked him if he was going to sign my petition and for the recall, and he did. And that made headlines all by itself.
That's cool.
That was, all the Republicans were pissed because I really bitch slapped them, pardon my French.
No, you can swear on this show. We're not FCC monitored.
I did not hold back, not one iota. I wanted to let them know, come on, man, there's something bigger than a political club.
Hey,
It's
Mr.
America, for crying out loud.
Absolutely. Mr. Hess.
And I just gave him the hellfire and brimstone approach.
Right.
And then the funny thing was, when I got back, I found out there had been all this Facebook conversation about my being there. They couldn't argue with anything that I said. but they just argued with my presence. They've since changed their rules so they can no longer have a non-Republican speak at such events.
Right on.
And so I feel kind of, I'm flattered. But what really, when I got back, what really got them fired up was, yes, they were mad that I spoke there and I may have said the word hell or something, and damn, maybe. And somebody said, well, he's pretty loose with his language. Just a little bitty stuff.
Right.
But it really fired up when they found out that 40 minutes after I had spoken there, I was also speaking at the Mojave County Democrat annual picnic up in Kingman.
Wow.
Just that, and of course they were wrapping their arms and legs around me over there. But it was wild because they were more mad that I would even bother talking to a Democrat than not. Then they wanted to be mad at me because they didn't like me, but now they really don't like me because I talk to Democrats.
Right. No, totally. Mr. Hess.
And another event that happened, and I'm bringing you up to the conclusion,
okay,
just so you get, because I think it's a wonderful story. One of the legislators called me and asked me if I would like to come down and discuss it, the bill, as it was going on. He was trying to, he was the throwaway guy they threw to me. He was going to put himself on the line for the party and make his bones or whatever. But I grabbed the chairman of the party. I was the vice chair at that time. I said, Warren, come with me. You got to come down. This is going to be fun. And here's what's going to happen. Sure enough, it unfolded exactly as I said it would. They had realized the strength of our coalition, and they wanted to separate us. And so he said, Barry, what we'll do, I'm looking at a piece of legislation I'll draft that we'll put together and we'll get it passed right through. It will exempt, it'll repeal that amendment that you guys are so opposed to.
Sure.
And I said, Bob, do you not understand the concept of loyalty and commitment? I said, no. And he goes, well, we'll give you this. We'll give you that or something. And I said, Bob, I don't want you to ever think you gave me anything. I would rather take it from you. Because now, remember, I knew we already were past our number.
Right.
Well, now I'll bring it back up. September 12th is looming. The press is all over it. I find out from my operatives in the Republican Party that the Republican Party is planning on goobering up the Secretary of State's office. So we literally could not hand in these thousands of boxes of petitions. I'm telling you, it's Wild West out here. And if you don't get it in by 5 o'clock, it's over.
It sounds like it.
And so
crazy.
I said, okay. I called the group together and said, okay, here, everybody be real quiet. Here's the deal. We're going to do it a day early, and it happens to be September 11th.
Wow.
And we'll have everybody come in. Don't tell anybody in the press or anybody else until 7 o'clock, on the morning of, which was 2 days away. And everybody kept their mouth shut. At 7 o'clock, notified the press that we'll be turning them in today. We filled the lobby with thousands of people with boxes and boxes, and we handed in 147,000 verified signatures, which meant we got about 200,000 total. This thing really scared the legislature.
Right on.
Now we have secured, and they were verified. So now we have secured our place on the ballot as certified by Secretary of State Ken Bennett. And so now we're making history. So what do your Republican people do when their yellow spines turned into spaghetti? Wow.
What a great idea.
They repealed their own law. Because what they did that for is because once it goes to the ballot and the people decide, then they can never bring those issues up again. So they repealed it, and sure enough, they have been running through. Now they've got a Republican majority.
Right.
They're running through all these amendments that everybody hated, and that's where we are. But in answering to your question, Heather, yeah, we have a little bit of an impact.
I know.
I'd say so. I'd say so.
I guess, yeah. That's awesome. Hey, so, Mr. Hess, do you believe in taxation at all? You as,
No, I don't. I don't believe in the direct taxation of any individual or their property.
I don't either. I think that's
anything beyond that. For instance, in a corporation, a creature of the state is where you exist by the blessing of the state. You have to play by their rules.
Absolutely.
So I don't have a problem with corporate taxes. I think they're really stupid because they're so complicated. I proposed, for instance, a 4% on the gross, no deductions, corporate tax.
Right
End of
on.
story. Everybody knows right where we are all the time.
That's right on.
Same in a 9.9% transaction tax on all retail transactions involving a corporation. Because that's as far as I would let it go, because you and I swapping money, that ain't got nothing to do with nobody.
Right, absolutely.
That's just a interpersonal exchange. And but in a corporate environment of retail, I don't have a problem with that.
That's awesome.
And it's funny because I stole the idea, and I stole it from Madison in the 48th of the Federalist Papers. Some words, I believe, that was the one, because it's always puzzled me, and then I got it. But he said, and the poor shall keep the taxes low.
Right. Makes sense to me.
And I thought, but see, when I first read that, I was like, how can the poor, the weak, the helpless, the voiceless,
Sure.
how can they keep the taxes low? Because money runs everything. And if they don't got it, they don't spend it. And if they don't spend it, you don't get it.
Absolutely.
And so, it's that Lassiter curve kind of deal.
Laffer curve. Right.
I said Lassiter. Yeah, exactly. It is the Laffer curve. But there is also a Lassiter curve, but it's a different curve for a different thing.
If you tax people too much, they're not going to, the people are going to find ways to get around the system.
Right, and they found that because that's how this country started, that was where government got its money, because, and it's funny because only property owners, which were always business owners, 95% of the population was self-employed,
right.
But the people who owned property were the only ones who were allowed to vote. And that's not like trying to exclude anybody or give a special privilege. The reason was that the legislature and the Congress and the United States Senate or the president, they could never reach any further than to have property, commercial property at that, commercial property authority over that. That's as far as it could possibly go.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everybody understood that. Nowadays, it's like we get half the mob plus one to go our way. We're going to kill all the blue-eyed people tomorrow.
Right. Well, I have blue eyes now, so don't kill me, man.
So do I. I got guns. Right? They're plans.
Right on.
All right.
Hey, Mr. Hess, what is your opinion on college debt?
I think they ought to just forgive it all right now, just because it was so stupid in the very first place.
Okay.
Turning kids into a cattle car, to get them educated in a dream job that doesn't exist. I mean, this is stupid. In the whole idea, because see, they didn't exist when I was in school.
Okay.
I literally scrubbed toilets to get through school. I called myself Commander Commodity. But I did, and I was also the campus center manager, and I ran a bunch of stuff, but on a lot of sports teams and stuff, and so there was a little humility in that. So I get up at like 4:00 in the morning and do what they had allotted, like 5 hours to do what I did in less than an hour, and I got commendations for doing it very well. And so
you got to be good at something when you're young, That's how you start off.
Yeah, and they credited it at that time like $4.95. Well, I figured I made 5 times that because I only worked an hour.
Right.
And they paid me for 5. And that was, so when we left college, my God, there was nobody I knew ended up with debt.
Absolutely.
You get out of some of the, and I went to a major, very expensive college and managed to scrape my way through like so many others. That was so much part of the experience. And what, really strengthens your gut is going through those things, when literally eating crackers for a week, those kind of things.
Right.
Because you just got no money.
Right. It's called ramen. That's what we did in college.
It's appreciation.
Right.
So much of it. And the problem with my generation, I'm 58, with my generation is that my 30-year-old son, we gave him too much because we felt we had it so bad that now our kids lived in luxury and they're sissies.
Absolutely.
I love my son to death. We share a birthday and left-handedness. But, I am sometimes surprised at what he didn't learn along the way.
Well, our culture has changed. Things are changed. The way we look at things are different. Speaking of that, you value critical thinking. And most public schools claim to teach critical thinking. But what is your take on critical thinking? Because you think it's a value that is above it all.
Absolutely. It used to make all the other candidates nervous when I would get up there on parade with all of them having to face it down. And I'd get up and usually say something about critical thinking skills. That's the most important thing we can impart, because it's not actually a group of knowledge, it's a way of thinking. And what made candidates nervous, I said, if for no other reason than so that you could discern who among us on this stage is lying to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that used to make everybody else uncomfortable for some reason.
Right.
And I say, that we've got to have people who hold our candidates to a standard, and they won't peek through the bushes and close an eye like they do for Hillary or Obama.
Sure.
This is pretty amazing, some of that stuff.
Yeah,
because I just don't understand it. Nobody can name an accomplishment of either of them with any certainty, and yet they've got these. There's about 3% of what used to support him statistically. It's a small number, but they're nuts.
He's the king. He can do no wrong.
And Hillary can do no wrong.
Absolutely.
An excuse for every little thing. And that's when people try to debate with me. I say, okay, here's my screening test to see if I'll waste time with you, because you obviously want to say that you oppose my views. That's good. That's fine. It's healthy. But let me ask you one question. Can you name just one? Now, there's been over 1,100 documented instances, just one of Obama's lies or misrepresentations that you find absolutely reprehensible.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen one of his supporters who would.
They can't do it.
They will not utter his name in vain.
Right.
Oh, my God.
He's the savior.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I loved Ronald Reagan, but he had a lot of faults and a lot of flaws.
Well, we're human.
But I just, as the overall guy and on a personal level, I loved him. I think as a libertarian, I would have to be a lot more critical.
And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before you even got on the show here. We were talking on the phone, and we were talking about economics and how really economics is really the thing that drives the states, that drives this country. It's not the government, it's economics. Because when we have an economic boom, everyone's happy. Everyone has work. We have less government. The government has less control.
There's no economy that can be driven or, engineered to success. It is something that happens. The greatness of the country and the strength of its economy is revealed through the productivity of its individuals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. And I think people are looking at things wrong.
Definitely. They see, they see it in dollars and cents, and so many people don't even understand that. They go, oh, look, my stock's gone back up. It's at higher levels than ever. And I'm
right.
Really?
Right.
Now, let's take, I've got 30 stocks representing hundreds of thousands, which is ridiculous all by itself, because it's not a true feel of the market.
Right.
It's a true feel of the top 30. But I ask them to say, okay, let's pick this one, and we'll pick one of the blue chips that's on there, and say, okay, now let's go look up all the news about this company.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? Oh, there's a lawsuit against them. Looks like they're going to lose. Okay. They opened up a new store over in Albuquerque. Let's see. There's another lawsuit against them. Okay. so okay. Now let's go back and look at the stock. It went up.
Right.
By 7%. What?
Mm-hmm.
Based on what? Because there was no growth. There was no new anything. There were no mergers. There was no nothing. And you say the whole point is you're looking at smaller numbers, because the devaluation just means to buy that same product, that stock, cost you, instead of $100, it cost you a month ago, it now costs you $107.
It's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal. Absolutely.
Without anything happening. The company didn't get more valuable. It didn't just find a sunken treasure somewhere.
Right.
Some did, and then the government took it away from them, which blows my mind. I'm thinking, why tell them?
Absolutely. Hey, anyways, this is Johnny Rocket here at the Johnny Rocket Launchpad, launching ideas in your direction. We're talking to former vice chair of the Libertarian Party, and he ran as a governor candidate, Barry J. Hess. Check out his website, stampzworth.com, and he is the CEO and founder of that, and MLM Marketing. I'm here with Kurt Nelson.
Yes, sir.
The voice of reason, the beautiful Heather Nixon.
Well, and make sure and check out the Haunted Heel, the retro and rock one-stop shop for all your rock and roll and vintage gear. Go to hauntedheel.com and type in Johnny Rocket for 10% off your orders.
And always check us out at NWCZ Radio every Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., Saturdays, 8 to 10 p.m., Liberty Movement Radio, Fridays and Mondays from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. This is Johnny Rocket. Stick around. We got a woman's place, and we'll be right back.